Hello, breast. Thank you so much, Dr. Torsunov, for your advice on how to ask a husband for a dress. It works perfectly. I have a question. I clearly understand the process of transitioning from the stage of a woman as a princess to the stage of man-like woman. But how does the process of becoming a true woman occur? Can you hear me?
Yes.
The question is about how to move from the role of a princess to being a true woman. I left a husband who drank. I worked hard at 6 jobs to get my own apartment. I met my second husband. We got married. We've been married for 5.5 years. When I met him, I had 1 job. Now I'm back to having 4 jobs, and I'm afraid to have a child with him. I'm afraid I'll end up back with 6 jobs again, and I'm scared to pass responsibility to him because I have a mortgage to pay. He doesn't always help around the house, doesn't handle some of the man's responsibilities, but he does get food immediately when asked.
Let me answer your question. Please stand nearby because I need to talk with you directly. You've said everything correctly. It all depends on your development. You are currently at the 2nd stage. The transition to the 3rd stage is needed. Many things reflect your understanding of how to live correctly and your piety. If you lack piety, then your husband simply doesn't want to take on the role of a man. When a person develops, their partner may lag behind. You're on the 2nd stage. He, it seems, is on the 1st stage, meaning he's a couch potato. He doesn't want to work. You're pulling him along. You're growing. If you move to the 3rd stage, he'll become a workaholic. But sometimes a woman deliberately stops working, and then the man also doesn't work. Here, spiritual strength is needed, because this is your fate, acting through him and through you. You need to develop spiritually, more prayer, more spiritual practice. Find time, and most importantly, understand that your task right now is not to increase your material desires. Any material desire requires credit. Credit means working more, and it's a vicious cycle. If you want happiness, then give up your excessive material desires. If you spend your attention, energy, and resources on them, you will be enslaved by excessive work. Calculate how many hours of work any of your little dresses cost, and you'll understand what you're doing to yourself. You need to seriously think about increasing the time you spend on self-improvement, on being in nature. Your body is already being depleted, and soon illnesses will begin to emerge in full force. This is already a sign that you need to change your lifestyle. When a woman acts like a man, how does she return to the stage of being a woman? You have to make yourself do it. You must force yourself, understand? Don't wait until you can't work anymore, until you're completely ill and have no choice but to become a woman. You need to force yourself to work less, to desire less materially, and to spend more time on spiritual practice. And as soon as you do this, you'll start working less. Your husband will shake off his inertia and begin to take an interest in life. He won't start looking for a job immediately. He will begin to take an interest in life. He'll develop hobbies first, then move toward utilizing his abilities. Everything happens in its own time, but the most important thing is that you must understand. A person must use inner strength and willpower to push themselves from one stage to the next. If a woman lives like a dreamer, a princess type, then she also needs to use willpower to change the situation. If she is overworked, she must also use willpower to change that. Your goal is to increase the time spent on spiritual practice. The second goal is to track your monthly spending, how much you spend and how much you plan to spend, and consciously reduce your desires and expenses through willpower. Otherwise, you will end up ill and unhappy.
I've already started having health issues, and it truly takes a lot of willpower to give up work. My husband asks me to quit, but I'm holding on to my work out of determination. But I know I need to quit.
Your husband needs to work more, and you need to work less. That's the task.
All right, thank you so much.
Helen, go ahead.
Right now it's Sochi, and next will be Izhevsk.
All right, Izhevsk, someone step forward and ask your question.
Right now it's Sochi, then Izhevsk.
Sochi, go ahead with your question.
Dr. Torsunov, hello. For the past 5 months, I've been acquainting myself with Vedic scriptures. And I've realized that I've been doing everything wrong in my relationships with men. Absolutely everything. Now that I understand my mistakes, I'd like to fix them. I lived with a man in civil marriage for 1.5 years. In other words, we did everything wrong. I suggested that we change our lives and start over. We split up, and 3 weeks later, he told me that he has a new girlfriend. The difficulty is that we work together, and I feel a bit of pressure from him. Either I'm imagining it, or it's really there. It feels like he wants to get rid of me so we don't work together anymore. Thanks to studying the Vedas, I've quit drinking and smoking. I now wake up between 5 and 6 in the morning. I pray. So far, it's only for an hour a day, but I also have an ongoing dialogue with God throughout the day. My question is about work. If I completely change my approach, will the situation change? Will the relationship stop breaking down after 1.5 to 2 years? I want it to last a lifetime. Thank you so much for listening to me.
Everything in your life is heading in the right direction. You are actively changing your life. You're in a period of significant growth. The decision to split was wrong. That was the biggest mistake. Everything should have been changed gradually. If you have someone in your life, you change together. If it's already happened and the family has been broken up due to foolishness, then continue living separately and focus on your personal growth. It's better not to work with him anymore. You have 2 options. If you want to keep working with him, you should focus on getting him back. If you cannot or don't want to, then you need to understand. If you continue to work with him, you'll never break that connection. It will remain, and you won't be able to get married to anyone else. If this has only just happened, you should tell him, I'm waiting for you. We should be together. I'll wait for you for 6 months. Set deadlines, establish conditions, and pray for him to return to your life, to return properly, so that you can formalize your relationship through marriage, and so on. If 6 months pass and he doesn't agree to such terms and continues living with that other woman, then it's his problem. He has destroyed the family. After that, you should continue focusing on your spiritual practice. Continue developing yourself as an individual, and understand that this always leads to stability and to people not separating. Everything you've experienced in your life is a result of ignorance and a lack of maturity. A civil union already implies no more than 3 years of a normal relationship, after which either the relationship deteriorates or falls apart. If people don't want to take responsibility for each other, it pollutes their lives. God doesn't approve of such relationships, so there won't be much love between you, only a desire to enjoy each other. But at most, you can enjoy each other for 3 years, and then that's it. What else can you do together after that? People just part ways. Therefore, there is only one solution. Set conditions from the start, date properly, and communicate correctly. If a person cannot meet these conditions, then you should not continue interacting with them. You need to focus on self-improvement. If you're not attracting a good person, you need to purify your consciousness so that a good person can come into your life. This is the essence of your future life, to purify your consciousness. What you mentioned about relationships lasting only 1.5 to 2 years is simply a reflection of your current development. As your development improves, relationships will become more stable. This is something everyone needs to understand clearly. However, never destroy a family for the sake of your spiritual growth. Do not separate for long periods of time because a person cannot live alone. A man is weak. You cannot leave him alone for long. Otherwise, he will simply find someone else. In any case, even distancing yourself to teach someone a lesson assumes they are mature enough to handle it. If you try to teach a lesson to someone who can't even live alone for 5 minutes, how can they remain alone? They will simply start looking elsewhere. Look at the person next to you and make the right decisions about how to live and what to do. I see that everything is going well for you. Everything is fine. You are growing. Any additional questions from Sochi? Would you like to say something else?
No, thank you very much for answering my question.
I believe everything is going well for you, but you must set a time limit. Don't separate just like that. Set a 6-month deadline. Pray for your family. Well, go ahead, speak.
I suggested to him, let's date, take care of each other, and pay attention to one another. He said to me, let's separate and see how things go.
He deceived you, I understand. That's his problem. Wait 6 months, pray, and then start looking for someone new. If you start looking for someone new now, don't work with him anymore. Otherwise, you won't be able to detach yourself from him. Helen, who's next?
Izhevsk and Omsk is getting ready.
Izhevsk, great. I'm glad Izhevsk has joined.
Dr. Torsunov, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Could you please tell me? I'm currently expecting my second child. My first is a boy, and the second is also a boy, but I was hoping for a girl. How do I deal with this? How can I come to terms with it?
That's great. 2 boys, that's awesome. It means you'll have heirs. Boys are the ones who take on the family's fate. They bear responsibility for the family. What's there to be unhappy about?
I wanted a girl.
If you only have girls without boys, that's harder. When it's all boys, that's fine.
So we'll have to try for a third to have a girl, right?
Not necessarily. But looking at your destiny, I'd say the third child is also likely to be a boy. The fourth one might be a girl.
One more question about my wife. We work together closely. We collaborate creatively. Overall, everything is good. But there are a couple of things about her that are hard for me to accept and process. How can I deal with this? How can I help myself?
If absolutely everything was perfect, it would actually be worse. When everything is completely perfect, you should start expecting an accident or misfortune. Because in this world, nothing is ever entirely perfect. You understand? There must always be something. And if there are only a couple of things you need to accept, while overall everything is good, then thank God. That means your life is normal. Everything is fine.
But can these worries lead to psychosomatic pains or illnesses?
Worries mean, first of all, ignorance of the nature of things. Women's nature is not like men's. Women have an egoism that will inevitably torment you. Because a woman's egoism is directed at the man. A man's egoism, on the other hand, is aimed at exploiting the woman and the external world. A woman's egoism is aimed directly at the man, which is why women torment men.
Any woman?
Yes, any woman torments a man. At first she smiles and behaves humbly. Then as she gets used to him, she starts tormenting him. She says, I don't like this, I don't like that, do it this way, do it another way, don't stand here, don't go there, this should be like this, that should be different, or I'll cry. Does that bother you?
Are you asking me?
Yes. Does what I've listed bother you?
No.
Something else?
Yes, let me clarify. You're talking about the nature of men and women. In our family, the situation is somewhat reversed. Some characteristics of male nature can be seen in my wife, while traits of female nature can be seen in me.
That's normal. There are different stages of degradation. The first stage of degradation is when a woman has feminine flaws and a man has masculine flaws. The second stage of degradation is when a woman has masculine flaws and a man has feminine flaws. The third stage of degradation is homosexuality.
Things aren't so bad for us yet, right?
Of course not. Everything is fine. Keep developing. There is no point in discussing it. Just grow, work on yourself, and you'll naturally transition from one stage to the next. Eventually, you might even shed all your shortcomings and become fully developed individuals. Everything lies ahead for you. You're growing. Focus on that.
Another question about self-esteem, which you spoke about in the last lecture. Can it be self-diagnosed?
Looking at your life, it seems your self-esteem is slightly tilted downwards and backward. There's a bit of sorrow about the past and a touch of humiliation. By working on yourself, you can balance it out and align your self-esteem. If yours is low, it means your wife has high self-esteem. Yours is low, so hers rises. If yours tilts backward, hers tilts forward. It means she's running ahead and you're holding back. She feels pride and you feel humbled. That's how self-esteem dynamics work in relationships. This is normal for everyone.
Is it flexible, this feeling? Does it shift easily?
Of course, it shifts through your inner strength. If you start running or spending time in nature praying, your self-esteem will move closer to the center, and she will naturally have to adjust hers toward the center. It doesn't happen that one partner in a family is balanced while the other is not.
If you sense an imbalance, what can you do right away? I tested it, and it went back down. What does a person need to do to bring it back to the center right away?
You need to stop lamenting the past and force yourself to live in the present, to find joy in the present. Through willpower, self-esteem can be adjusted.
And if it goes too high, should you pray or what?
Pray, find joy in life. Willpower means inner determination, like saying, I can do everything, I won't break my vows. How do people go into battle? They force themselves. Similarly, a person says, no, I won't grieve, I won't mourn. It can be done by thinking about God. Remembering God helps a person restore their sense of self-esteem. This is a good question, thank you.
And one last question about self-esteem. Is it contagious? I notice that when, for example, you interact with someone whose self-esteem is low, you seem to adjust and end up on the same level. Is that right?
Yes, that's called unfavorable communication.
So is it contagious?
If you see that someone is bringing you down, don't let it get to you. Either don't interact with them or talk about different topics.
On the contrary, if someone's self-esteem is low, you might lower your own level to make communication more comfortable.
Yes, that's called unfavorable communication. It destroys your fate. If a person insults everyone, you'll start insulting others too. If their self-esteem is low, yours will decrease. If theirs is high, yours will rise too. Everything is transferred, and it happens unconsciously. That's why it's important to interact with those who are working on themselves. If the people in your group talk about God and spiritual development, it doesn't matter if their self-esteem is low or high, everything will be fine. You can have conversations with such people on these topics. But if someone is stuck on a negative topic like everything is bad, they'll drag you down and disrupt your life.
Thank you.
Next is Omsk, and after Omsk, Moscow Group 1. Please get ready.
Yes, Omsk, glad to hear from you. Good evening.
There's loneliness in my soul and life. It's just work and home. What should I do?
You can overcome loneliness. For this, you need to study this topic. We will study it now. The reason for your loneliness is the internal inability to properly sacrifice yourself. A woman can sacrifice herself as a professional. She gets money for work. If a woman sacrifices herself as a mother, she gets good relationships with children or children themselves. But she also needs to sacrifice herself as someone who gives love and kindness to people. You should joyfully and kindly communicate with people and force yourself to live this way because you are currently in depression. You don't feel like being kind and joyful. You're stuck in the past. There will be a trap waiting for you. The influence of the past's power, your broken fate, is pulling you in. You need to stop thinking about yourself. Start caring and being kind to people. Smile at everyone, be joyful, be beautiful, both externally and internally. Give yourself with love to all people and stop being depressed. And then people will start paying attention to you, and then you can get married. But if you keep being sad, living in depression, not caring about anyone and constantly overworking yourself, then it won't work out.
I work as a doctor. I'm always very kind to patients.
This is a professional approach. You behave like a mother with patience. It's maternal. This means that at most you can find yourself a son-like figure. He'll say, "I want to live with you." Some younger, handsome, son-like figure will appear. "Good mommy, I want to live with you. I love you." There will be mixed feelings towards a woman and a mother. If you behave like a mother, you'll find yourself a son-like figure. But if you want to find a husband, then you need to build equal relationships with people. This means not just work, but also friends, parents, and so on. You need to socialize, not just build relationships at work. This is a classic scenario, an office romance. Remember the movie Office Romance? The woman there had a mother's position. She was the boss, found herself a son-like figure, and they tried to create a family. He was even afraid to give her flowers, walking in circles. She couldn't wear a dress properly, also going crazy because it felt somehow uncomfortable. I'm a mother after all. Why should I dress up? Change your internal position.
Thank you. Next is Moscow 1, after Moscow Kazan is getting ready. Hello, Dr. Torsunov. My name is Elena. I was at your class and I was touched by your words about how loneliness can be beneficial. In the case when a woman feels self-sufficient and self-satisfied, I decided for myself that this is my case because I've been alone for 15 years after divorce. But I don't suffer much from it. It was my internal decision last time. But unfortunately this week there was an event that made me look at the reason for my loneliness a bit differently. My younger sister was diagnosed with a very serious condition just this week. And now I'm thinking that maybe I'm alone because she and her children, who are growing up without a father, need me.
That might be the case. Do you have your own children?
Yes, I have 2 adult children. One is married.
If you have 2 children, then you're not alone.
I'm not alone. I mean without a man. A man is not necessary. You know what men are like these days. Well, I came to the same conclusion for myself.
A woman always needs to choose. If she has children, she should think whether it's worth investing in another relationship again. In principle, if a woman lives a bright, beautiful life, she's happy. It's up to God to decide whether she'll be alone or not. When she lives a joyful, happy life, maybe a decent person will be attracted to her. And that's fine. I'm not against it. But if it's a loser, then develop yourself first, then we'll talk.
Losers came around, but I pushed them away very quickly.
Yes. Why would you want to deal with a loser with a bottle of beer? If you feel good, that's normal. If a woman has dedicated herself to spiritual practice, has children, then she doesn't need a man. especially if she feels she has bad karma in family matters. She doesn't see good men around her that she could marry. The main thing is that it should be a self-sufficient, satisfied life, not a deficient one where you think, I'm alone, I feel bad. If you feel good, then it's fine. A person should live for God. If a woman is alone, has no one, and lives not for God, that's a very sinful life. If a woman doesn't cheat, she lives for God, has children, doesn't need anyone else, then she's living correctly.
I still don't understand my purpose. What happened with my sister?
You can take the children if something happens to your sister. Take the children and raise them. This is very noble, good. You'll get another child, you'll be even happier.
The situation is just beginning. It's unknown how everything will turn out.
Pray for her. Any situation is a general situation. Prayer overcomes everything. Any disease can be overcome with prayer, anything at all. Everything depends on the balance of forces. The more strength you have, the less power bad fate has. The more you are connected with God, the less you are connected with punishment.
Do you see strength in me?
I see strength in everyone who is here right now. The more a person rejoices and bravely goes through life, the more strength they have. Strength is the result of interaction with God. Strength is not about building muscles. Every person has strength. If I interact with God, I have more strength. If fate weighs us down harder, we have less strength. If I interact more with God than with fate, then there will be more strength. Everyone has strength. You need to believe in this and try to be closer to God.
Now Kazan, after that Novokuznetsk. Good evening. I'm working less now, after I got married. I'm trying to live a feminine life, a spiritual life. But I still have a strong desire in my heart for fame and social realization, and because of this, my health starts to suffer. And I don't know what to do about it.
This is normal. Every person has their own nature. You are a leader by nature, that's why you have a desire for fame, honor, influence, power. This is normal for a person. If a person is a businessman by nature, then they have a desire for wealth, money, luxury, good relationships. If a person is a scientist by nature, then they have a desire for knowledge, influence over other people, being senior, and giving guidance. These desires are natural for a person because they develop them in the direction of their nature. Therefore, there's no need to worry about this at all. If there is some desire, it means your self-esteem hasn't yet found a comfortable position in your life. You held a higher position in your past life than in this one. Develop yourself and take your position. If a person wants power, it means they once had it and need to take their position. And accordingly, give people knowledge or help them manage or earn money together with them.
I have loneliness in my heart because I'm not fulfilling my potential. It starts to weigh me down.
Your loneliness is decreasing. I see that you're on the right path, and your chance of getting married is increasing.
I'm already married.
So what's there to worry about then? Loneliness in the heart exists in all people on earth. Only holy people are free from loneliness. Our desires are infinite. If someone is married, then they want to get rid of loneliness in their heart. If the loneliness in their heart disappears, then they'll want something else. Human desires are endless. That's normal.
Thank you, Novokuznetsk. After Novokuznetsk, Tuimazi is preparing. Hello, Dr. Torsunov. I have a question. My husband is a very good man. I feel it in my heart. But our relationship is falling apart. Our marriage is collapsing. He was married once before me and had several civil unions. He has 2 unborn children from previous women, and our first child also wasn't born. We got married in a religious ceremony, and then I had a miscarriage, we argued, and he filed for divorce. At first I left, but then I returned, and he didn't take me back. He filed for divorce. For 3 years now, I've been trying to restore our relationship. I prayed a lot, visited churches and monasteries. During this period, we had a child, a son. I started reading the Vedas and listening to your lectures. My husband also read the Vedas and fasted before we met.
Do you live together?
We don't live together now. Just a month ago, we reconciled. He suggested we live together and said, "Pack up the child, move to my apartment." But the day before moving in, we argued again, and he canceled everything. He said he would file for divorce again this week. Now I don't know what to do. He says he doesn't want to live with me, doesn't love me, and doesn't communicate with our son. He only saw him once. He says he doesn't want to interact with him, that he doesn't need children at all. He never wanted them and doesn't want to live with me. I don't know. Maybe I should let him go. There are so many obstacles.
You can neither let him go or hold on to him. That's God's work. If God gave you a husband, you must pray for him to bring him back. If he doesn't return, then God will give you another one. We don't choose our fate. It's not like, I don't like this one, so get out. Now, next one. Now, the problem isn't him. It's you. You have a very rigid and categorical character. You insist on your way very firmly. And since you're a woman's strong character can break a man. You need to behave more gently and delicately without being so harsh in your relationships, you understand? Otherwise, he just becomes lost, broken. He's afraid to continue building the relationship. You need to develop, to work on yourself and pray for God to bring this person back.
And is it even possible for us to build a relationship right now?
Right now, you're not ready for a relationship, neither he nor you. You need to work on yourself and develop as a person. It's like a child with a sore throat. They want to eat delicious food, but they can't because their throat hurts, so they constantly cry. You are in this kind of state right now. You can't live with someone at the moment. You don't have the inner capability. You need prayer and personal growth to gain that capability. If you keep crying, worrying, and being dissatisfied, then nothing will change. You'll just end up alone. You need to accept the situation and focus on developing yourself further. Pray for him to return. If you think things will be better with someone else, that's an illusion. I'm going through men in my mind right now, and I can't think of one who could handle what you're currently preparing for him.
Well, yes, he did say that I'm a man in a skirt.
No, you're a woman. It's all fine. We're all the same, men and women. A woman is soft on the outside, but firm on the inside. When close relationships begin, women start to show their inner firmness. Men can't handle it. Men are firm on the outside, but soft on the inside, so they often can't endure it. So everything is normal, everything is natural. You're a woman, you just have an inner firmness like all women. You're just not fully developed yet, which is why you don't know how to control your impulses, energy, or strength. That's why you're alone. It's all logical. Develop yourself.
What about the fact that he doesn't communicate with the child and doesn't want to?
He's not developed, which is why he doesn't communicate. A man's relationship with a child depends on his relationship with the woman. If he loves the woman, he'll love the child from her. If he doesn't love the woman, he won't love the child from her. If you grow and build the right kind of relationship with him, he'll come to love the child.
And what about the fact that he's filed for divorce? Should I divorce him?
Of course not. If he wants to divorce, let him do it himself. Why should you initiate it? How long have you been listening to my lectures?
About 3 or maybe 4 months.
You're clearly in a sort of spaced out state right now. You just need to keep listening to lectures, developing yourself as a person, and things will become clearer about what to do and how to live. You've just started working on yourself, just stepped onto this path, so you don't fully understand what's happening with you or with him. You're simply riding the wave of life. When the wave goes down, you go down. When the wave goes up, you go up. You need to learn how to live correctly. That's what you're doing now. Don't make any conclusions right now. Follow what I've told you. Don't divorce. Try to save the family, pray, set a 6-month timeline to wait for his return. After that, if it doesn't work, then you can let go. It will be his fault if the divorce happens.
Should I avoid contacting him now? Not try to talk to him?
Try to maintain contact, but don't argue. If you can communicate calmly, then go ahead. If not, then avoid contact.
How do I learn to understand him better? I feel like I don't fully grasp him.
My dear, I won't be giving you a lecture right now. I have plenty of lectures that cover everything. Every question you're asking is addressed in detail in those lectures. I won't spend all this time on just you, explaining everything. I understand you're confused, but you've only just started listening to the lectures. Keep listening, and everything will become clear.
Thank you.
I've given you an overall picture of where you're at in life right now. You're simply not a fully developed person yet. You won't be able to be with someone right now because you lack the necessary inner development. You need to listen to lectures and develop yourself as a person. The time will come and you will have a family. There's no doubt about it.
Yes, we all wish you happiness. Everything will definitely work out for you. Now it's Tuimazi's turn. After Tuimazi, please prepare Riga.
All right, yes. Happy to see you and thank you for attending the lecture.
Hello, I have a question. I am working on myself.
You need to sit closer to the computer so we can hear you better.
Is this better? Can you hear me clearly now?
Much better, yes, go ahead.
So I'm working on myself. I'm engaged in spiritual activities in my city. I lead a spiritual discussion group as a leader, and I also run a men's club. Additionally, my wife and I lead Psychology of the Third Millennium clubs. I've recently switched to a better job as well.
That's wonderful. God will certainly be very grateful to you for helping people. That's a fact.
But I still have this recurring feeling of loneliness and purposelessness. It doesn't go away completely. The sense of dissatisfaction keeps returning.
This feeling is connected to two things. First, your lifestyle is not optimal for your physical body. You don't get enough fresh air and exercise. You're simply depleted. Your energy levels are low. When someone is drained, they cry like a child, reliving past pain. In your case, you had loneliness in the past, which led to exhaustion. Now, even though that loneliness is no longer present, you're crying because of those old scars. It's just the result of an unhealthy lifestyle. You need to spend more time outdoors, get more exercise, wish happiness to everyone, and strengthen your connection with yourself. I don't see any major issues in your life right now. You're progressing. Sometimes setbacks occur. When sadness hits, don't sit in front of the TV. Instead, get up and go for a walk. What other questions do you have?
That's all, thank you. I heard everything I needed.
Let's talk about the physical aspect of life, the physical dimension of existence. Did I mention in the last lecture that if one dimension of a person's life is missing, it becomes hard to build a family? If the physical aspect is neglected, the person becomes drained, and no one is interested in them when they're depleted. If the mental aspect is lacking, the same happens. If the spiritual aspect is absent, normal life is impossible because there's no energy, no inner strength. It results in underdeveloped individuals. A harmonious person develops all aspects. Developing the spiritual side? Great. Starting to cultivate morals and ethics? Wonderful. Now work on the physical side, otherwise there won't be balance. For instance, today I practiced yoga for 2.5 hours. I feel fantastic. My mood is great. No loneliness. Everything is superb. When I was tired, I felt lonely. There was sadness. My wife asked, "Why are you so down?" I said, "I'm fine, just tired." When someone is exhausted, they tend to feel down. But if you live right, you rest and you're joyful again. A baby cries, drinks milk, and then smiles. If they don't get milk, they cry. Why do they cry? Maybe they feel lonely at heart. Let's not exaggerate the psychological aspect. For example, a baby cries. The mother thinks, "Oh, the poor child is crying. Maybe it's some birth trauma, resentment, or could it be loneliness carried over from a past life?" The baby's just hungry, you know. Give them milk, they feed, and they stop crying. No childhood trauma, everything's fine. Don't blow the psychological aspect of life out of proportion. Not everything is a psychological problem. There are emotional and spiritual aspects too. For example, if a husband doesn't want to see his child, it means he's simply underdeveloped. He lacks conscience. He's missing a connection with God because it's God who nurtures development in a person. If you find it difficult to communicate with someone, or you're entirely alone, it means you're lacking the psychological component, love for people. And if you feel emotionally drained, lacking the energy to live, it indicates a disconnection from nature. You've been neglecting your relationship with nature, I can see it. Forcing yourself to run or do exercises seems overwhelming to you. Instead, you'd rather delve into psychological questions because you enjoy it more, but you must discipline yourself to work on your physical health.
I've actually started jogging. I've made it a habit to run 5 kilometers every other day. Plus, on the other 3 days, I do pull-ups and push-ups. But it still feels like the jogging doesn't fully make up for it.
Keep jogging, it's fine. You'll recover over time. Your body has accumulated a deep reserve of physical exhaustion. You don't just need jogging, you also need to strengthen your body through practices like cold exposure. There's excess heat in your body as well. So keep developing and working on yourself. Focus on the physical aspect more right now because there's a gap there. Your psychological dimension is overemphasized. The spiritual side is less so, but the physical side is the weakest. That's why you experience fatigue, which leads to sadness.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're progressing well. I like it. Everyone should develop like you.
Thank you so much.
Manage the process. Who's next?
Riga is next. Odessa will follow Riga.
I just remembered where I've seen this before, when I was getting my US visa. I was sitting in the embassy and a woman came out and announced, "Now it's this person. Next, the other one. Get ready." Helen, I'm listening to you and it brought back a memory.
I hope it's a good memory.
It's a good one. I got my visa after all. It was a long time ago, about 10 years back, but it stuck with me.
That's wonderful. Now we'll hear from Riga, then Odessa. After Odessa, Krasnoyarsk is joining us for the first time today. They'll likely wrap up the first block of questions. Okay?
Let's hear from Riga.
Dear Dr. Torsunov, good afternoon. Someone introduced me to your work.
See, this is Riga, you know? They're so polite and respectful to their elders. That's just how they are. When I hand out flowers, say, in Kyiv, Kazakhstan, or Russia, the women practically storm me. But in Riga, they line up in an orderly queue. Even when I offer them a flower, they don't rush. They approach very delicately, hesitantly. It's a cultural trait. The people here are very refined. They respect their elders and are very cultured. They behave so graciously and courteously. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. I have a situation. I unknowingly destroyed my first long-term marriage. Right after that marriage ended, I met another man. He was wonderful, educated, and someone I loved. But within 2.5 years, he ended up in prison for a very long sentence. After him, I met another man, and the same situation happened. He also received a long sentence for the same offense. Now I've met a third man, and this time he's already there, in prison. We connected on social media. My question is, if fate keeps sending me the same situation over and over as if it's a copy-paste, what should I do?
The first thing you need to understand is that this stems from a past life, from when you were likely in a male body. It seems you were in prison and a woman was waiting for you. Your situation is entirely tied to your destiny, 100%. I can see this clearly. What should you do? Prayer and self-work are essential. Don't fear your fate. Don't be afraid to meet people. Understand that the closer you are to God, the weaker this aspect of your destiny will act. Eventually, it will disappear completely. It's even possible to overcome fate. For example, if someone is about to be imprisoned, you pray, and suddenly they aren't taken away. They remain with you. Fate is like a meteorite. It moves farther and farther away from a planet that's approaching God. Conversely, the farther a planet is from God, the closer the meteorite gets until it crashes into it. You need to distance yourself from this meteorite of loneliness where your partner ends up in prison by moving closer to God. This means praying more, practicing more spirituality. You will overcome this aspect of your fate. I think you've already started to overcome it. I can see that things are beginning to normalize. Just pray a little more, and the meteorite will continue moving away from your planet. It will keep drifting farther and farther away.
Thank you. So if life throws us these boomerang situations, it's not possible to just forget about them, right?
No, that's impossible. It's a natural law. There's no need to worry about it. Some people think, am I foolish for attracting these types of people? Maybe I should try harder to avoid them. People tend to blame themselves, not realizing that it's God who orchestrates relationships. That feeling of attraction always connects you to someone tied to you by destiny, and there's nothing you can do about it. You understand? In reality, we don't have much choice. Essentially, the choice is either to live alone and pray, or to be with the person God gives you. If you want God to send you someone else, He might, but the situation will likely be the same as with the previous person. It's usually a trade-off, like two sides of a coin. For example, if you want someone tall and handsome, you might get someone handsome but not tall, or tall but not handsome. You see, there are always two sides to the coin, but for some reason, only one side seems to be active in your case. Well, it's okay.
We'll keep waiting.
Don't worry, it's okay. Keep working on yourself, and you will definitely overcome your fate.
Thank you.
Everything is going well. I don't think there will be a third time with the same situation. I feel it won't happen again. You've almost overcome your fate. Pray just a little more, and everything will be fine.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I like it when Helen organizes the queue, so I don't get random messages or posters like "Give us Sochi" or something else.
I'm not organizing it. They signed up in the chat.
Got it.
The order is based on how people marked their spot in the chat. Now it's Odessa, then Krasnoyarsk, and after that we'll continue with the lecture. I have a question. I'm currently living with my husband in a civil marriage. He has many divine qualities as a man, which I noticed from the beginning of our relationship. Then we had a child. My husband is both demanding and kind of not. And during a certain period, I was so overwhelmed by all of it that I left. But I didn't leave for someone else. I went to my mom with the child and divorced him. He tried to get me back many times, and now we're living together again in a civil marriage. How should I behave with him? I know you've mentioned that this arrangement isn't ideal. I understand that living this way is not right. He isn't too eager to formalize the relationship, but he brings up the idea of having more children.
That's great. It's a good sign that he has a desire to build a future with you. Don't push too hard. Just say, children are wonderful, but only after we're officially married.
I've already said that to him.
Good. Now keep calmly and gently repeating it, about 50 times. At first he might think you're just saying it casually, but as he brings it up again, repeat your stance calmly. When he finally gets frustrated and says, "Why do you keep bringing this up?" you can explain, "It's just how I feel. I don't want to risk being left alone with 2 children. So first, marriage, then children." That way he'll have no choice but to come around because the desire for a second child is his. Consistency in calmly repeating this will get through to him.
Dr. Torsunov, what should I say to someone who's afraid of having children because I'm vegetarian? In our family, we have 3 doctors with long-standing careers, and they're concerned.
That's easy. Start finding dissertations and articles about the harms of meat and send them via WhatsApp. Let them read up. There are countless scientific studies and papers on the negative effects of meat consumption. I know a woman who leads a hygiene institute, and she's adamant that meat is harmful. There's no question about it. She says any reputable dietitian already understands this. Thinking of meat as healthy food is outdated. Do you know why they think this way? Because livestock are injected with antibiotics and hormones which ultimately harm people. And if they don't use antibiotics, then the meat could contain parasites, bacteria, or worms. Either way, it's dangerous food for your health. I'm not even touching on the subtle energy aspect. If we focus only on the physical aspect, the evidence is clear. Doctors need this explained in scientific terms.
My husband, who looks a bit like you, prefers a serious approach.
Well, I'm also a doctor. All doctors are the same. That's why we resemble each other.
He needs factual evidence. But when he looks at me, he says, "You're not proof of this theory." I've started looking worse, lost weight, and my health has declined. To be honest, this began before I became vegetarian.
Then become proof yourself. For example, I'm the proof. I have excellent health. Although I gained too much weight when I first became vegetarian. But now I've started running, and my metabolism has improved so much that I only eat once a day and still gain weight. I've been running 20 kilometers a day and finally reached a healthy weight. I've lost 10 kilograms and my weight is now stable. I feel great. Become proof. Eat properly as a vegetarian. Become the evidence. Show him, look, I'm the proof. What more do you need? Show him through your example and your health.
I see. So I should gently talk to him about marriage registration, right? Subtly, yes?
It's very important, and this applies to everyone. In personal relationships with a loved one, there's almost no way to make them understand something by explaining it. This is true for everyone. The only way for someone to change is to live the way you believe, enjoy life, and set an example. If you want him to understand something or desire something, then gently and repeatedly set conditions. Over time, he'll naturally accept them.
Okay, I understand. Thank you very much.
If you get upset or angry, it will only make things worse. The same goes for forcing him to stop eating meat. It will just backfire. Instead, calmly enjoy life as it is. When the sun of positivity in your life becomes stronger, it will shine on him, and the darkness will dissipate. He will start changing his life. Men typically don't start with giving up meat. First, they start exercising or becoming more active. That's a sign that they'll eventually think about their diet. If he's begun a healthy lifestyle or started exercising, that's already a good step.
When he comes home, he relaxes a lot, but he's very active as a man. He can energetically gather us all to go to the beach, which exhausts me. Then, in the evening, he goes to the gym.
You're a woman. You don't need to be as active as he is. You're a woman. You're made for happiness, not constant movement. You don't need to follow him everywhere, running and jumping. Well, it seems he's a well-developed man, but spiritual growth in men usually develops very slowly. Deep understanding of the world also takes time. Be patient, pray, and grow yourself.
He doesn't believe in God.
In time, he'll begin to grow spiritually. It's an inevitable process.
And what if he forces me to eat meat?
I don't know. You'll have to decide that for yourself. I'm not an advocate of strict rules like you absolutely can't eat meat. That's a family decision you make together. Understand that eating meat isn't just a dietary choice. It's a way of thinking and a stage of human development. These are Leo Tolstoy's words, not mine.
He wants to force me to eat meat.
You can't be forced if you don't want to. You're not clay to be molded. You're a person. You can choose to comply or not. A woman isn't obligated to obey a man in everything. You have an equal relationship. If you feel that it's not pleasing to God, you can stand firm in your choice. The key is not to provoke anger. Don't stir up a fight over your rights. Simply smile and say, I don't want to. That's all. Who can force you then? If you're confident in your truth, people will sense it too. If you're angry and uncertain, they won't sense your conviction either.
Thank you very much.
The sense of injustice resides within us. This world by its nature isn't fair. But if we have enough love, injustice melts away. Sometimes a diplomat visits a country filled with hatred, ready to go to war. But the diplomat, with a heart full of love, calms everyone, and the war doesn't happen. During this time, they insult the diplomat, saying cruel things to him, yet he responds kindly, calms them down, and peace prevails. Thousands of lives are saved, and war is avoided. It all depends on the strength of your love. You can endure any injustice if you possess love. If you don't, you won't be able to. So just calmly accept other people's perspectives. Even if you see errors in their worldview, it's not a big deal. That's normal. Understand that eating meat isn't so harmful that a person will immediately die from it. The issue is that this diet doesn't allow consciousness to develop quickly enough. That's the main problem. Mostly that's the issue. Of course, now we also have antibiotics and hormones added into the mix. Who's next?
Last question for this block, from Krasnoyarsk. The rest will either be in the second block or at the next seminar.
I like that someone organized these questions so there's no chaos. Krasnoyarsk, glad to see you.
May I speak? Hello, Dr. Torsunov. Greetings from Krasnoyarsk. I'm very happy to see you. I have a question. I can't seem to inspire my husband to take on asceticism practices. He works in a rotation system, 2 months on and off.
Isn't working in a rotation system already an asceticism practice? I think it's a mega asceticism practice.
That's what he tells me too. He works in extreme conditions on the Yamal Peninsula, in the snowy wilderness.
That's intense. He's exhausted from work and needs rest and recovery at home.
I try to help him relax, but he spends the entire month drinking beer.
That's his way of perceiving and coping with the world. It's not that he doesn't want to do anything. His life is already incredibly ascetic. I understand what working in a rotation system is like because my lifestyle is similar. I'm constantly traveling, adapting to different conditions, and facing constant challenges. When I come home, naturally, I sleep more.
But you don't drink beer, Dr. Torsunov.
I don't drink beer because I perceive the world differently. A person's way of resting depends on their level of spiritual development. The more spiritually developed a person is, the less they're stressed by life. So, a more developed person doesn't need beer. Someone less developed needs it. And someone even less developed might need vodka or even drugs.
How can I inspire him?
It's not about inspiring him. You need to understand that when the sun rises, shadows disappear. There was a movie in Russia called The Shadows Disappear at Noon. By noon, all the shadows in your life should disappear, not in his life, but in yours. You must develop spiritually to the point where those shadows vanish. His beer is a shadow of your fate. It reflects how you lived before and the consequences you now face and suffer for. If you think it's your job to inspire him, you'll never overcome your fate because you're projecting it 2 steps behind you. First, you must realize that fate, not your husband, is to blame. Then you'll see that fate isn't to blame, but you are. Finally, you'll understand that it's not about blame, but about the work you need to do. Only after this will he start to change. If you continue to see him as guilty, you'll never change your fate. Even prayers won't help. Your prayers will only help you stop blaming him and see that it's your fate at work. Then you'll understand that it's your responsibility, and you might even realize that you drank in a past life.
I've already understood that, Dr. Torsunov.
Then you've already made progress in overcoming your fate. Now let go of the feeling of hopelessness and see it as a task to work through. When a person starts cleaning the kitchen, they realize it's just a task to complete, nothing more. From that moment, fate begins to shift.
I have already accepted it.
Try to understand that this is how the laws of fate work. You just need to calmly work through your fate and avoid panicking. Panic comes from ignorance and a lack of understanding about the laws of fate.
I've been listening to your lectures for a long time. This is my 6th year.
You can listen as long as you like, but now we're talking about action. If a child keeps drinking milk for a long time, it doesn't mean they'll suddenly stand up and start walking. To start walking, first they must crawl, then stand on their feet, then walk while holding on to something, and only then truly walk. We're talking about action now, not just absorbing knowledge. You can drink milk as long as you like, but to walk you need to take action. That's what I'm suggesting. Act, don't just listen.
I'm worried about his health.
Worry is a sign of powerlessness and a stingy heart. Worry means not acting. People have 2 choices, worry or pray. You need to start praying.
That's what I'm doing.
A child has 2 choices, cry about not being able to walk or start crawling. Start crawling.
Thank you.
I'm glad to hear your questions. We have an interesting topic. I spoke about self-esteem throughout the last lecture. It's a very important key aspect of understanding oneself. Now I'll discuss important questions about loneliness, which indicate certain stages in a person's development. We'll start by discussing loneliness as a sign of insufficient spiritual growth. Why does a man drink? He drinks for one reason only, because he isn't developed enough. He lacks personal development, which results in inner tension. Unlike women, he doesn't know how to relax from this tension. Women relax through the energy of love. That's why women are naturally more relaxed. Their bodies are relaxed, their psyche relatively so. If something stresses them, they throw a tantrum, but then they relax again. For men, it's different. Men accumulate deep tension and can't relax because love energy is feminine energy, not masculine. Men also have some love, but it's not enough to relax themselves. Women relax through relationships with children they love, with a pet, like a cat, or with relatives they care for. Men, however, can't relax in relationships. If a woman doesn't invest in a relationship with a man, it stresses him further. Men also need to invest in relationships with a woman and with God to release tension. But if a man can't release his tension, he has options. The first option is hooking up with other women, which helps him relax. The second option is drinking. The third option is thrills, like amusement parks, Ferris wheels, or other intense rides. These intense activities, spinning rides inducing fear, generate extreme tension followed by sharp relaxation. The person becomes numb from fear, which provides a sense of relief. Watching movies can also bring some release, though it doesn't provide complete relaxation. Games like dominoes, checkers, or gambling offer a distraction, but they don't truly relax a person deeply. The most significant external relaxation comes from alcohol. Why? Because of something called the spirit of cheerfulness. What is this spirit of cheerfulness? It's an entity that provides a person with the energy of love in exchange for their willpower. For example, when a person drinks alcohol, they give up their willpower but receive a temporary sense of love, which causes them to relax. However, this relaxation is superficial. Deep down, the person remains tense, leading to a hangover when they sober up. In that hangover state, they realize that drinking hasn't improved their life. This is a profound form of self-deception and essentially a kind of self-destruction. Human life is meant for rational development, not just for pleasure. Animals experience life's pleasures 1,000 times more intensely than humans, that's for sure. If you only want pleasure, you need an animal body for that. But in a human body, you must develop your intelligence to overcome vices like drunkenness. Change starts with oneself. In the context of men and women, male ignorance manifests as drinking, smoking, and promiscuity. Female ignorance often appears as depression, laziness, and aggression towards loved ones. These are signs of female degradation: depression, laziness, humiliation, and aggression. These are the signs of female degradation. And male degradation is drinking, smoking, and debauchery, as well as criminal life. What should be done about it? Nothing needs to be done. You just need to understand that if you see such a man next to you, it means that he is showing you your previous life and your current state. If you have a husband who lives in degradation, it means you haven't run far from degradation yourself. If you step one level above your close person, that means you've moved from a life of degradation into passion. He drinks heavily while you work yourself to exhaustion. This means you'll gradually start pulling him up. But if he's not improving at all and you're in depression, it means you're at the same level as him. You just need to accept it, you understand? Don't think that you're unlucky. Simply accept that your husband isn't developed because you're the same. You're not overcoming your fate. That's where the problem lies. This happens because a person wants easily obtained happiness. That's the reason, because they can't relax in any other way. During these webinars, one man told me, Dr. Torsunov, look, I quit drinking and had a stroke. Now I'm afraid to quit smoking because I might get some other disease. And this is true because a person can't just quit something abruptly. Tension accumulates, which can lead to mental breakdown or health problems. This is a serious matter. Let's say someone was inspired to quit a bad habit, but they didn't release their tension. Problems can follow. That's why you need to change your entire lifestyle altogether. If a woman is changing her lifestyle, she shouldn't force a man to change it too. She should inspire him. She should start living correctly herself, and he will be drawn to it too, because when the sun rises, all clouds inevitably disperse. Therefore, each person should first understand where they're going. This is the meaning of a righteous life, a good life. If you're nagging your relatives because they live incorrectly, this is a wrong way of living. First, fill yourself up, become strong within. Then your close ones will gradually understand. It's a gradual process. They will gradually understand how to live correctly. Following the sun means following God. This comparison, by the way, is an allegory that was used in the Vedas. In the Vedas, God was compared to the sun. The soul should turn back. That means it shouldn't go into the abyss of its desires, but simply turn to God and start living for Him. And then it ignites, becomes bright, and this is called the path of goodness. When a person becomes brighter themselves, everything around them becomes brighter too. Close people change, their lives change, and so on. Unfortunately, in modern society, women also drink, and drinking for women is even worse than drinking for men. Because men drink because they can't relax, while women drink because they want to destroy their life. That means they are disappointed in their life. That's why they drink. This is even worse because men can also drink out of disappointment, but in this case they become not just drinkers but alcoholics. So you need to get out of this state in any case. There is also male and female smoking. In this case, by the way, it's similar. Women also get exhausted, and smoking doesn't give energy of love, it just relaxes. At work, both women and men get tired, experiencing mental tension equally. That's why both women and men smoke now, because women have also started to work as hard as men in modern society. To quit smoking, you need to change your lifestyle, move more, spend more time in nature. Release more tension specifically accumulated from work, because people drink due to lack of love and smoke due to excess of tension from work. That means these habits need to be overcome. Why are we talking about this now? Because when people drink, smoke, engage in debauchery, or to put it kindly, find themselves another partner, these people will never get rid of loneliness until they can break free from the trap of life in degradation. Loneliness will be inevitable. People can live together, but it will still be a lonely life, because in degradation there can't be harmony. It's impossible. Degradation always means that one simply needs to engage more in spiritual practice. Don't torment your husband so that he stops drinking. Don't torment yourself that you smoke, but just have more spiritual life, more lectures, more spiritual music, more prayers. Eat blessed food and so on. Gradually, a person loses interest in all things that lead to degradation. Debauchery in men is also a result of lack of relationship. Why does a man engage in debauchery? Because he lacks love from his wife. Either he can't receive it himself or his wife doesn't give enough. Well, there are different reasons, but when a man doesn't feel the energy of love, his lust starts to increase. When there's no love in relationships, a man develops strong lust, and at some point, a woman can't handle this, because a woman cannot build intimate relationships without emotional connection, and it becomes like violence for her. But a man can do it both with and without emotional connection. It doesn't matter to him. He just needs to release this sexual energy. He needs to relax. And through this, he releases mental tension. As a result, when a woman can no longer build such violent relationships without love, can no longer build close relationships, she refuses them, but the man needs them. As a result, he starts looking for someone else. He starts cheating secretly. Then naturally it all comes to light, because it's never possible to hide infidelity. It immediately becomes visible in a person's behavior and in their attitude towards family, towards life. As soon as a person starts cheating, they immediately become indifferent to children, wife, and relatives. He becomes so dull in relationships, becomes sort of inert in relationships, he behaves shamelessly in relationships, and so on. Women can also engage in debauchery. The reason is this female dream. When a woman really wants love and tender treatment towards herself and she doesn't get this from her husband, then she might choose such a path where she finds someone who gives her this. As a result, she starts living a double life, loves her lover, but lives with her husband because the lover doesn't care for her. He just satisfies her desire to enjoy life. This all comes simply from lack of development. All these things are just the result of incorrect understanding of life, of fate, of how to live correctly. There's simply no knowledge, and people live like this and reap the consequences. Remember, any acts of degradation destroy the family. Crime destroys the family. Alcohol destroys the family. Debauchery destroys the family. Violence destroys the family. All this comes from a life of degradation. If a woman behaves culturally and correctly, a man will never raise his hand against her. Violence always involves two sides. Either the woman is too humiliated and she drives the man to rage, which happens because of his pride, or conversely she gives such aggressive resistance to his demands that the man can't handle it. He breaks from this aggression and starts fighting. Whenever there's violence, both sides are at fault, not just one. Remember, this is a sign of life in degradation overall. It means the family lives in degradation. Also, life in passion leads to loneliness, not just degradation, you see. Life in passion means that I put external happiness above internal happiness. This is the scourge of the modern world. All people now have simply gone mad with desire to have a bigger apartment, more good clothes, and so on. They just like madmen rush into this excessive busyness and thus destroy their life, because what families lack now is not furniture, not living space. There's a lack of love. When there's little love, one wants to isolate in a separate room, and that's where the desire for everyone to have their own room comes from. The reason for such desire is an incorrect way of living. If people invest in love, they live well even in one room. They all feel great in one room because they love each other. I have an acquaintance in India. He has several families, his son's families. He, his wife, and his son's families live in one house, but he's not a poor person. He can build 5 houses. I asked him, "Why don't you build houses for your sons? Why are you all cramped in one house?" They have one large room with a bathroom for each family. A large room with a bathroom is for one family. They all meet together in a large hall. This father says, "Are you cursing me so that I wouldn't see my grandchildren, wouldn't see my children, wouldn't feel love from them, from everyone?" That's how it is. They constantly meet with each other. Of course, they have their own disputes between wives, for example. I know this family. They have disputes of different kinds between father and son, between sons' wives, and so on. All this is normal. They just endure, forgive, wish happiness to each other, gradually reconcile, get used to each other, and then live happily. This is the right way to live. And if people cannot develop spiritually, even a 5-room apartment won't be enough for them. They need a separate room even for the dog because it has already tired everyone out. Then they'll have to make a separate room for cockroaches. This is all a sign of incorrect living. When I went to America to give lectures, a 3-room apartment there means 3 rooms with bathrooms, plus a common hall and a kitchen. What kind of family needs a 3-room apartment? If it's husband, wife, and child, they need a 3-room apartment with a bathroom in each room and a hall. Otherwise, they say it's impossible to live. And even better, a 4-room apartment because there are also friends. If they come to visit, they also need a separate room. This is already madness. This means that people keep increasing their needs, and for each room they need to work hard, and work not just for 1 year. This is where the foolishness lies. People artificially create comfort for themselves instead of living naturally, simply loving each other more. If you love each other, you can live together in one room. You just need to learn to love. That's the meaning. And then you don't need to work yourself to death. You'll save a lot of money. Can you imagine? You'll save decades of life simply because you love each other. I'm just instilling this kind of thinking in you. You might think that Dr. Torsunov is some kind of outdated person. I am a modern person. In modern life, people now have an 80% divorce rate. This is the result of modern culture. The well-being of a family or life depends specifically on family preservation. The level of well-being is not determined by the number of vacuum cleaners per capita, but by the number of divorces. If people are able to live together, this is real normal life. It doesn't depend on whether they are wealthy or not. This needs to be understood very seriously. This is an important question for every person. So when people are excessively busy, tension accumulates. Men develop excessive sexual desire from being too busy and a tendency towards bad habits. fear of family responsibility, excessive demands for living conditions, wrong understanding of women's needs, and so on. Excessive busyness in women leads to strong internal tension, increase in male hormones, coldness. They become less attractive. They lose the ability to keep men at a distance. To clarify relationships, they incorrectly perceive men. They lack close communication with women. They have a lonely and difficult life. This is all the result of excessive busyness. Think about it. When a person develops, we're talking about development, right? So a person has developed a little bit. At first, people just drink. These are undeveloped people. They drink, smoke, cheat. These are undeveloped people. They develop a little and start working themselves to death. They develop a bit more, seemingly start practicing spiritual life, and then loneliness comes to the person again because even development needs to be done correctly. When men start practicing spiritual life, they start thinking that family life always means such suffering. Fine, then why do I need it? I'll just pray. Living alone is good. I have enough money for myself. I can provide for myself. And men begin false abstention. They develop an aversion to women's character flaws, to the feminine principle. The desire to work for the benefit of others disappears. They constantly hang out at spiritual programs and their goal is to enjoy life. They understood what spiritual life is, that it brings great pleasure, and they constantly stay in temples, listen to hymns, or travel to monasteries on various spiritual trips. When you ask them, when will you work? When will you support your family? And so on. He says, I don't want this, it's all sin. I should travel to monasteries and enjoy spiritual life. This means that this man is simply an egoist. His egoism manifests through spiritual practice. This is not a person in passion and not a person in degradation. This is a selfish person in pure goodness. There are pure goodness egoists, as it turns out. They destroy families. Such men don't even create families. Women also develop egoism in pure goodness that destroys families. Women always want to create a family, generally, but sometimes there are such fanatical women, by the way, who also don't create families to avoid creating problems for themselves. We will talk about this too. They think they are very elevated, but they are not elevated. This is simply laziness of the soul, spiritual laziness. How does this loneliness and pure goodness develop in women? This is pride in one's purity. A woman becomes so pure, so sublime, while all men are so dirty, totally disgusting. Why get involved with them? I'm so pure, so sublime, they're all dirty. Maybe I want to get married, but only to someone equally pure and sublime, only to such a man, and such men might only be found in heaven. They have increased demands on men. If I'm sublime, that means everyone around isn't sublime, so that's it, goodbye. And they start picking men apart. They overestimate women's good character traits and underestimate men's. A woman greatly exalts sensitivity, tenderness, love. She doesn't see men's good character traits. She only sees feminine ones. She believes that this feminine purity, love, tenderness, this is what holiness is. Male qualities like firmness of spirit, abstention, these are all sin. This is not holiness. Female qualities are holiness. Male qualities are not holiness. A woman develops a feeling that she's better off alone. She becomes such a comfortable egoist. This female way of loneliness is called comfortable egoism. I'm fine as I am. Well, I want to get married, but I haven't found the one I need yet. Such comfortable egoism. It's impossible to find anyone because all men are stressful, and I don't want to strain myself anymore. I only want happiness, and that's it. So, the woman remains alone. She becomes very self-absorbed, starts thinking about herself too much. She even loses the desire to build relationships with women because she feels fine as she is. She reads prayers. She stops serving society in a feminine way, only goes to spiritual services and becomes detached. Such people become wild. One can become wild in degradation. That's lying on the road hugging a bottle. One can become wild in passion. That's when there's only work and you don't even communicate with close ones, with children, because there's no time, just work. One can become wild in passion. I saw a film in my childhood featuring Charlie Chaplin. There was a man who worked so much on the assembly line that his hands kept moving automatically all the time. He walks down the street moving his hands. Naturally, there's no personal life there, nothing at all. He just has the assembly line. This is loneliness in passion. Loneliness in pure goodness means excessive enthusiasm for spiritual programs, unwillingness to face any difficulties in life, desire for comfort, peace, solitude, silence. A person thinks that this is the right way to live. This is a delusion. The right way to live is to give yourself to others, to perform asceticism practice. Help other people, serve society, serve God, not enjoy God and people, and so on. When a person sees only enjoyment in spiritual life, they become wild because this person doesn't give me pleasure. Later, they can't even communicate with spiritual people because everyone stresses them out. They can only attend programs and do nothing else at all. And eventually they get tired of this too, and then degradation occurs. Such a person falls from the spiritual platform, starts insulting everyone, getting angry at everyone, and so on. That's how it goes. We have just discussed loneliness that occurs due to a person's underdevelopment. Now we are moving on to another topic. This is loneliness that occurs because a person has an incorrect understanding of life in general. This kind of loneliness can exist. It comes from an incorrect understanding of life in general. In this regard, it's important to understand that people often confuse a person with God. This means loneliness will follow. If a woman wants a relationship with a man, she wants God in her life in general, but wants to find Him in a man. Similarly, a man wants God in his life and wants to find Him in a woman. As the song goes, "You are the wave and the sail, you are the sun, you are the earth and wind." This is an address to God, not to a person. You bring me the dawn. Who brings dawn to a person? God brings the dawn. Sun, night of love and light. Who is the ray of sun? It's God. Who is the light of love and sun, the light of love? It's God. We confuse a person with God. We dream about God and start thinking about a person this way. This exists in all relationships essentially, but one shouldn't strive for it too strongly. Of course, you will see the soul of the person you fell in love with. But if you only dreamed about this and got such a person, know that these relationships will definitely be destroyed. Why? Because a person is not capable of being God. It puts too much pressure on them. If you start treating them like God, it always puts pressure on the person, makes them proud. They simply start mocking the person who thinks that way, who thinks you're divine. A person has both divine and earthly aspects, so they should be treated both strictly and kindly at the same time. But if you're only kind, you deify them, there's no strictness, then they become impudent, spoiled. All divine aspects leave them. Your attitude squeezes out all the divine from them. If you treat a person only strictly, all the divine qualities disappear because you ignite negativity in them with strictness. They get angry. They protest against such treatment. Therefore, love means that you see and acknowledge both the divine and human aspects in a person. You learn to behave correctly with them, kindly to the human aspects and divinely to the divine aspects. You forgive the human aspects in a person and try to discern the divine. This is correct. But if you only see the divine and nothing else, then there will definitely be a next episode. See how interesting it is. This is the result of incorrect thinking. This is a pattern. If you fall deeply in love, then that's it. The family will be destroyed. But there are situations when a person can't even fall in love. This is again a female situation when a woman is living in a dream. That means dreaming is actually a terrible thing. Nowadays, modern psychology has simply got on everyone's nerves with this term dream. We need to understand that they confuse it with having a goal. These are completely different things. When a person dreams, they stop taking action. Dreamers don't act, they don't do anything, they simply become infantile in life. Modern movies, all these computer games ignite dreams in a person. A person becomes a dreamer. A dreamer is a passive, unreasonable person. Dreams never lead to victory. A goal in life leads to victory. A person should strive for a goal, not for a dream. Dreams should exist, but you shouldn't ignite them in your heart. Cultivate them. Therefore, when a person becomes a dreamer, they start to idealize what they can get, and as a result, end up alone. And since dreaming in general is feminine energy, there are many women dreamers. And that's why there are so many single women who can't find a man, because of excessive requirements, because she doesn't understand herself. In a woman, all the best comes out, while all the worst remains invisible to herself, because that's how the psyche is structured. As a result, she begins to overestimate her chances of getting married and starts dreaming about a person who she can never meet. Because she overestimates herself and underestimates men simply because she doesn't live, she doesn't communicate with people. She doesn't try to create a family, but just waits, searching for someone she will never find. This is the result of dreaming and passive life, in which there is no love for people, no service to others, no care for others. This means an incorrect understanding of life. It's good to search for such a person, but you can spend your whole life searching. There's a song, My friends have been married for a long time while I'm still dreaming of a prince. I saw him in the movies but don't know how to find him in real life. You understand? This is the result of the harmful influence of movies. People develop dreams, but life is completely different. As a result, a person becomes detached from life. Besides movies, there are now dating sites on Facebook and so on. What does this dating mean? A person shows only their best photos, writes their best letters to another person. They essentially make themselves into a beautiful big soap bubble. We have a festival where people come and often meet each other. People often come to the festival as if for a date from these groups, and at every festival, either a woman or a man comes up to me and says, "I don't know what to do." A woman says, "We met in a group on Facebook. He seems such an amazing person. When I just looked at him when he came to the festival, I didn't even want to talk to him anymore because he showed himself completely differently in those photos and behaved differently. I'm disappointed. I don't want to deal with him anymore because I thought he was different." This is self-deception that leads to deceiving another person. People meet virtually, but it's impossible to live virtually. You'll have to live with a real, actual person. You can meet virtually, you can dream about someone, but you'll have to live with a real person. And all people have flaws. There are no princes on this earth and no princesses either. All people have flaws, and you'll have to accept these flaws. Women have female flaws. It's tough. Men have male flaws. It's tough. Therefore, you just need to live together and not think that you're unlucky. I've been giving lectures for 20 years, and everywhere I see the same thing. Everyone says they're unlucky. Everyone has the same thing because we don't know life. When people lived in large families, children saw everything. How mom and dad made up after fights, how older brothers and sisters argued and reconciled. They saw life and understood how life works. And when a woman walked down the aisle, she cried because she understood it would be difficult. But now everyone laughs and dances when they walk down the aisle, and then they cry later. People used to cry first, then laugh when they worked through their fate. Now they laugh first, then cry. That's how life is structured. This is an infantile life, meaning it has no depth, no understanding. It's very important to know that nowadays loneliness is often just a sign of an incorrect understanding of life. And this is the wrong way of thinking about life. Look, the first option is a woman's desire for comfort. A woman is a harmonious being in herself and she feels good with herself. Why does she need some man? He only creates problems constantly. So she stays alone because she feels good and comfortable with herself. This is a sign that loneliness is being programmed. Next, excessive demands on men lead to loneliness. Excessive dreams and no actions, no deeds. Just sitting and dreaming, being withdrawn, detached from people, unwilling to do anything for anyone, princess syndrome, all of this leads to loneliness. Working yourself to exhaustion leads to loneliness. I am now telling you, explaining these points. There are also male dreamers, but they dream differently. If a woman idealizes a man and attributes good qualities to him, then men have different dreams. He constantly thinks about sex. He has a picture of intimate life, sex in his head, and that's his dream. As a result, it turns into searching for these pictures on the internet. Then it leads to self-gratification, excessive demands on women, sexual perversions, weakness of character, withdrawal, low self-esteem, weak willpower. Then come computer games and endless watching of all these erotic films. And lonely women dreamers, as I already said, these are dreams about a knight in shining armor, disregard for men's flaws, not noticing their own, laziness, withdrawal, overeating, and oversleeping. The next topic of loneliness is called selfishness in love. This is a very important and difficult topic to understand. Take a young man and a young woman. They don't really understand what life is. They met, started communicating, and got married. Young people have strong love. It's intense. They argue constantly but can't live without each other because they're young. There's a lot of love energy. They're not so busy with work yet. They haven't seen life, haven't been disappointed, haven't been exhausted. The body is young. Energy is overflowing. Therefore, in principle, they endure, tolerate each other, and live together. At an older age, a person wants love, but they don't have as much energy. They have a lot of expectations because they already have experience of incorrect relationships. They've been burned badly, and they don't want to get burned anymore at all. Look, an interesting phenomenon occurs in people who are over 40, 45 years. I've noticed that even in people who are over 30, it's such an interesting thing that people want family and relationships so much that they pull the energy of love towards themselves. A thread of love appears between people. Like in the song, I keep feeling that between you and me a thread will tie. So the thread is tied, and if a person strongly wants love from another person, they pull this thread from them, pulling it from their heart into their own. And this results in unrequited love. What does it look like approximately? A person falls in love and simply bothers the other person with calls, meetings, constantly wants something from them, hugs, kisses, torments the other person. And naturally, the other person finds this unpleasant. They get tired of all this and simply don't want to communicate with them. This is the male way. And the female way is when a woman falls in love, she starts being capricious, constantly wanting something for herself. She becomes very sensitive. If you take one wrong step, that's it. She immediately gets offended. The woman whines for love, demands love and attention to herself. And as a result, the man gets tired, he can't take it anymore, and leaves her. When a person wants love so badly and has found something they dreamed of, this, by the way, happens with dreamers, they find what they dreamed about. Then when they are left, it gets even worse. They feel that love can't be brought back, and then they take a long time to recover from stress. Because the stress of separation also leads to loneliness. A person can live for several years in these thoughts about how love can't be returned and so on. And again, dreams about what one used to have and how it can't be returned now. This is all nonsense. It simply comes from selfishness in love. Before creating a family, a person must learn to care for people, help other people. A man must become responsible, must try to be serious in life, in family. Then there won't be this nonsense. Male nonsense is an insane desire for sex. Female nonsense is an insane desire for attention to oneself. This nonsense always turns into separation, because it's simply impossible to endure such a person. A person who demands excessive attention to themselves, acts capricious or demands constant meetings, calls excessively, pesters, it's all unbearable. And this gets worse with age, and that's why people become lonely. Why? Because when they fall in love, they aren't loved back. And when they are loved, they think, why do I need this person? I don't like them. Like one woman came to me and said, I don't love this person, but he's good. Should I really get to know him, live with him? I say, what other options are there? Do you want to fall in love with someone? Yes, I want to fall in love and live with him. But then he won't love you. She says, will it always be like this? I say that it will always be like this because the desire to have someone in your life is less than the desire to take care of someone. When we are very selfish in love, love is always pulled towards oneself. And as a result, there is only one option, to live with someone you don't love. Because if you want to live with someone who doesn't love you, there are no guarantees. Why would they want to live with you? They will leave you, that's all, because they don't love you. So there's only one option, to live with someone you don't love. So you strongly want love, but you get the opposite result, living with someone you don't love, or you'll live alone. Therefore, a person must overcome this desire for love within themselves. They must learn to serve others, care for others, and then they get a stable family. A woman must find peace in solitude. She must simply love everyone, care for everyone, feel good even when alone. And then it's favorable for creating a family. If she hasn't found peace and met someone, then it's unrequited love. The next cause of loneliness is hyper-responsibility about personal life. This happens with both men and women. It means that a person starts to study their partner in detail. How will we live? Will this work out for us? Will that not work out? First apartment, then family. First apartment, then children. Then they get some other nonsensical thought. Hyper-responsibility in men means, if I don't have a good salary, I won't get married. If I don't have an apartment, I won't get married. No car, I won't get married. And a woman thinks, no education, I won't get married, and so on. Hyper-responsibility means that people physically cannot create a family because they are constantly afraid of everything. Let's say they meet someone, they start clarifying relationships for 50 hours a day. And the other person simply thinks, Lord, I don't need this, and just leaves because they're already fed up with it. Too much fear of suffering in personal life. This is called hyper-responsibility. Men usually fear that a woman will be stronger. What's there to fear? She will be stronger anyway. If a woman hid her strength from you and you married her thinking she's weaker, it just means you're stupid, didn't understand that you simply didn't see her strength. That's all. She charmed you, hid her strength, and that's it. But in reality, a woman is anyway stronger. Any woman is stronger than any man. That's how life is designed. A woman's psyche is stronger than a man's. There's nothing you can do about it. So you want to find someone weaker? Well, then you'll never find anyone. You'll just remain alone. Because a man gets married to take care of his wife, and she will assert her rights, and he will take care of her, that's all. This is how a man should set himself up for life. A woman should set her mindset as follows: he's not exactly what I want, and I need to be patient with him. You must tolerate his personality flaws and everything else. You won't find someone who's exactly what you want. Only God is perfect. There are no perfect men. Similarly, there are no women who wouldn't disturb a man's peace of mind with their character. You just need to accept this and live together. In ancient cultures, wise men arranged marriages so that people wouldn't stress over figuring it all out. It's not that this approach should be followed now. Wise men saw who was compatible and who would live well together. They had the insight to determine this. They told people, go ahead and marry. People trusted their elders, created families based on their advice, and didn't divorce. These were happy families, an interesting paradox. However, this wouldn't work today because elders no longer see or understand who is truly compatible. I've seen cases where elders arrange marriages and they fail even worse. Why? Because elders can't see who matches with whom or how they would live together. Women often fear men because of violence. If a man fears he doesn't have the ability to earn enough or thinks a woman's character is too strong, he feels inadequate. He underestimates his capabilities and misunderstands women's expectations. Men assume women want too much and believe they can't provide it. On the other hand, women fear men's nature, violence, harsh words, the challenges of pregnancy and childbirth. These are sources of tension. Women often prioritize comfort and self-care. Every man has a fear of the future. Responsibility for providing for the family and the weight of life's burdens falls on his shoulders. Women always fear the roughness of male nature because women have a delicate, tender nature. It's clear that men don't share that tenderness, which makes it hard for women to be around them. It's hard for any woman to live with any man. That's why women were married off in the past, because they were afraid and uncertain of what to expect. They asked their elders, "Can I manage with this man?" Elders would say, "Yes, it's fine, don't worry." Then she would calm down and get married. But there's another problem: irresponsibility in personal life. This means people simply live incorrectly. Men can be promiscuous and immoral. I know one man who is now over 40 years old. He says, "Dr. Torsunov, I just can't seem to find a woman. There are plenty of women around, but I just can't fall in love." The energy of love is wasted through casual relationships. With each new woman, your capacity for love diminishes. The strongest, purest love is in childhood. Over time, with each new relationship, love grows weaker and less pure. Then he says, "I fell in love, but after 2 or 3 days, I'm over it." The ability to fall in love fades entirely over time. If someone believes they need to fall in love before getting married, that's a misguided, dreamy idea. If they've also had many casual relationships, they'll end up alone because they see more flaws in people. When someone engages in sexual relationships with strangers, they begin to see more of the human side in the opposite gender rather than the divine. As a result, this defiles them. When a man has not touched a woman, he sees only the divine in her and does not notice the human side. That's why he falls in love. But when sexual relationships become constant, people are defiled by them and begin to see more of the human than the divine in each other. This is why husbands and wives argue. They are defiled by excessive sexual relationships. This defilement makes them see more of the bad in each other. And if a person is promiscuous, how can they marry? They no longer see purity in women. They see only filth. This promiscuity in both men and women leads to loneliness. When a woman behaves promiscuously, she becomes repulsive to men who want to create a family. She becomes dirty and impure to them. Men want to create a family because of a woman's purity. But if a woman is promiscuous, she is impure and dirty, and a man will not feel drawn to commit his life to her. She does not attract him as a person to live with or devote his life to. This lack of purity is why women become lonely through promiscuity. Women often experience loneliness due to promiscuity because it diminishes their inner purity and magnetic allure. They lose their attractive and pure qualities. A woman cannot strongly attract a man when she has lost her purity. Promiscuity always leads to loneliness. In modern culture, young people think they should have fun before marriage. This makes it very difficult for them to find a close partner later. Because they were promiscuous, they developed an inability to be together, to fall in love, and to attract one another. They become infantile in their ability to attract and connect. This is why in ancient cultures, men and women were not allowed to meet each other freely before introductions, weddings, and so on. Women had their own female social circles, and men had male ones. As a result, people saw each other very purely. This was an ancient culture built on pure relationships. Nowadays, excessive interaction, too many opportunities for women to sleep with men and men with women, leads to devaluation. Too much contact diminishes value. Similarly, if a woman reveals too much of her body, it becomes devalued. When a woman is modest and covered, she inspires admiration, purity, and a sense of something elevated in men. But when a woman constantly exposes her body, she becomes unattractive and unpleasant. Once I went with some friends to relax in a certain city. We were told that if we wanted fewer people around, we should cross the river to the other shore. We crossed to the other shore, and there were completely naked people walking around. They were so unattractive and unpleasant. A naked person reveals their worst side, and their divine aspect is hidden. It was nauseating. We decided to move farther away and then went back. We waited for a boat to return us, so we stood there among those people waiting for the boat. They were not embarrassed. They walked around like monkeys. You know, in India, monkeys sit around, and when they look at you, they immediately show you the main reason they live, their reproductive area. These people were just like monkeys. They show what they live for. But human life is meant for higher things, not for lower ones. The lower things are necessary for having children and so on. Today, I've also shared with you many things about loneliness that we haven't explored in previous lectures. It's not just about self-esteem being misaligned. This is another topic. This topic can be illuminated from another angle, which I've discussed today. It's the theme of separation. Essentially, loneliness means separation. We are separated from God. If a person feels separated from nature, where does that separation lead them? Does it lead to losses or illnesses? No. The feeling of separation from nature leads them to nature, making them healthier and happier. Our sense of separation from nature has atrophied. We don't realize we need nature. Dogs understand it. They constantly bark, wag their tails, and clamor to be let outside. That's why dogs are such a blessing to people. When I jog in the morning, I see that only people with dogs are outside walking. This means the dogs have nagged their owners so much that they're forced to go outside. As a result, the dogs give these people health. We've lost our natural instinct to go outdoors, but the dogs nag us until we do. Then the dog pulls them toward trees. While the person strolls down the alley, the dog wants to sniff trees. The dog drags them to the trees, so the person ends up near the trees. It's as if the dog is taking care of our connection to nature now. We've become so oblivious that even animals have to take over this role for us. If a person desires goodness from others, not sex, not love, but goodness, divine qualities. If they feel separated from those divine qualities, if they long for knowledge, purity, and spiritual connections to grow and form elevated friendships, where does that lead? It leads to good people. They form friendships, establish purity in relationships, and so on. If a person feels separation from God, directly from God, where does that lead? It leads to faith. The person gains faith, becomes a believer, and evolves spiritually. But if a person confuses humans with God and begins seeking a human instead of God, idolizing people, where does that lead? It always leads to separation and loneliness. If a person idealizes nature, confusing it with God, worshiping nature as though it's God, what happens? They end up unhinged. They start running naked after squirrels in the woods, becoming wild and losing their sanity. This happens because they don't understand that nature is God's energy, not God himself. Worshipping nature leads to failure in life. Worshipping humans leads to failure in life. One must strive toward God, understanding that God exists within people and within nature. If a person has established the right orientation in life, only then can they consider building a family. They must treat others humanely, not idolize them. If you found God in your heart and possess faith, you will never idolize another person. Idolization is a natural human function, after all. We can't live without something higher in our perception of life. Someone must embody higher qualities for us. Separation from a person arises from idolization and leads to stress and loss. This is what we've been discussing today. That's why it's important to understand this principle. Don't idealize others to avoid disillusionment. For instance, someone might say, I don't know who God is, but I know who Dr. Torsunov is. You're idolizing a mentor, placing them above God. This results in a cult of personality. Then you discover the mentor has flaws and you feel disillusioned. You think, I believed in the wrong person. The truth is, faith should be placed in God, not in people. A senior is simply someone who serves God and shares their experience with you. They are human too, with their own flaws. Sometimes people prioritize fulfilling their duties to society and family over God. They believe in serving society and family, with no room for God in their lives. This was the case in the Soviet Union. People strove to serve society and be patriotic, to serve their families, but there was no room for God. This leads to disillusionment. People became disappointed in societal structures and in their close relationships. It results in widespread disenchantment. Some people idolize their children, seeing them as indigo or prodigies. It's a common theme. Women often cultivate this notion in their hearts, idolizing their children while refusing to see their human flaws. The result is unfortunate. The child becomes proud, starts asserting their rights, and ultimately disappoints their mother. If you idolize, you will eventually face disillusionment. Worshipping nature instead of God leads to sentimentality. He begins to idolize cedar trees, squirrels, and other elements of nature, essentially worshipping nature itself, but one should worship God, not nature. As a result, he starts developing absurd ideas, like believing cedar oil is the best oil on earth, practically worshipping cedar oil. Then he starts idolizing cedar sticks or something else equally absurd. He moves on to worshipping water, clean water specifically, and so on. This is all a sign that the person is confusing one thing for another. If diet and daily routines take center stage, people become self-centered. Take raw food diets as an example. People obsessed with it constantly think and talk about food, even at night. For them, food becomes their god. They are fixated on eating and doing things with their diet. It's absurd. A friend once told me he planned to adopt a raw food diet to save time on meal preparation. After 3 months, I asked him, "How's it going?" He replied, "It takes so much time to prepare food. Just eating raw carrots gets boring. I need to press, dry, or process the food, and it takes forever." I said, "There you go. You thought you'd save time with raw food, but now you're spending more time than before. Maybe it's time to live normally and stop defying your fate." And so on. Now let's return to the topic of loneliness, not just from the perspective of misplaced self-worth. We discussed loneliness in terms of one's perception of the world and their evaluation of life. How you see the world is the kind of person you become. I know what I believe in, what I love, what I value, how I perceive people, and how I perceive family. When these perceptions are distorted or incorrect, a person becomes lonely. Loneliness is simply the result of deeply flawed life perceptions. Today we explored this topic from that perspective. Now there are only 36 minutes left in the lecture. So I'd like to engage with you on this topic. This is a broad subject. If any of you have issues related to what we discussed, please raise your hands. I won't randomly call on people this time. Helen will decide which city gets to ask a question. She's keeping track of who has and hasn't spoken. It's best if we hear from cities that haven't participated yet. Raise your hands if you'd like to discuss this topic. We'll continue developing this theme through practical life examples.
My name is Wilhelm. I wanted to express a thought and ask whether loneliness should be considered the opposite of inspiration or a sign of separation. Or, as you said, disconnection or detachment, for example, in my case, from one's purpose. I'm currently searching for my purpose. I'm developing myself in various directions to embrace the area of life where I am meant to contribute the most. Should loneliness be seen as a sign of separation or as the opposite of inspiration? If I feel inspired, does that mean I am closer to my goal or purpose? And if I feel a sense of loneliness, not in the sense of lacking people to talk to, but in my heart, as though I'm not doing what I'm meant to do, can this be interpreted as a sign of being distant from my purpose?
Okay, I understand. You've repeated your question 3 times, I get it. Let me explain this to you now. You are confusing 2 things. The first is unfulfillment. Unfulfillment is not loneliness. It's more like inner suppression. It is a sense of inner inadequacy. But your loneliness is also present. That's a completely separate topic, one that you likely don't even recognize in yourself because you haven't addressed it. This is about excessive egoism and being overly immersed in your own needs. You are very focused on your purpose, so much so that you lose the inner capacity to serve and care for others. You aren't concentrating on them, and that's where the loneliness stems from. Your loneliness arises because you're so deeply immersed in discovering your purpose and so intent on realizing yourself in your activities that you lack the proper connection with people. You don't serve or care for them, nor do you think about them. As a result, loneliness arises. When a person doesn't serve others, they become lonely. Unfulfillment also stems from this, just so you know. When a person's main motivation in life is to gain happiness from their work rather than to give their work to others, then even happiness from work does not manifest. I remember a time in my own life when I also experienced a prolonged sense of unfulfillment. Then I thought to myself, why dwell on this? And I simply started doing good deeds for others. Whatever they needed, that's what I did. From that point on, gradually, step by step, I began to understand that I should be doing something for people. And that's how I came to feel my own nature. You see, there's a significant contradiction here because the two actions you are currently performing are dead ends. One action is immersing yourself deeply in thoughts about what you enjoy most in life. That's a dead end because by focusing only on what you enjoy, you'll never truly find it. You need to think about what others need the most. Then through that activity, you'll understand what brings you joy. When you only think about how to realize yourself and don't focus on helping others, that's also a dead end. It also leads to loneliness and unfulfillment, so your main issue is a strong fixation on yourself. That's the real problem here. You can ask me another question now and we can discuss this further.
Thank you. I actually agree with you. There was a time when I tried to help everyone in every way I could. But now it's the opposite. I've distanced myself, retreated inward, and started overanalyzing. Now, I'm beginning to think that instead of reflecting and seeking answers in my head or the world, it's better to just start living. To let life flow as it will and trust in my higher self, which guides me through life anyway. Somehow life will arrange itself so that I'll end up where I need to be. That's probably it.
You've summarized everything correctly. I like everything you've said. The only thing is, this path is long and difficult. You simply didn't realize how long it is, and that's why you stepped off the path. You tried, saw how hard it was, and then stepped back. But this is the only path, you understand? It's difficult, it's long, but it's the only way. There is no alternative. Right now, you've tried another path. You've seen that it's a dead end. You've driven into a dead end. Now get out of that dead end, return to the path you were on, and just accept that it will take longer, but you will achieve your result.
But I think even the dead end was useful. Because during that time I developed myself. I strengthened, you could say, the spiritual aspect of my life. Gained theory, a foundation, and an understanding of the world. I think both are necessary, both theory and practice.
Yes, I agree with you. It means that sometimes you need to retreat inward like this, periodically. If you have some imbalance, either leaning too far in one direction or the other, then you will need to periodically drive into the dead end, work things out with yourself, and then move forward and live again. Ideally, this should be balanced. A person should both retreat inward every day and also open up to the world. I personally spend 2 to 3 hours daily in deep self-connection, and then I dedicate myself to others. Every day you should take that time, drive into the dead end, so to speak, and then dedicate yourself afterward. It's not about going too far in one direction or the other, but finding a balance.
Yes, I agree. When you retreat too far from the world, it takes a long time to get back to normal. I've had a lot of psychological challenges. I come from a troubled family, so it took time to resolve all of that. But now that everything there is fine, I find I can dedicate just a little time to this every day.
I'm glad to hear that. It seems like you're doing well. You're a thoughtful person. You're growing steadily. Keep going. You'll succeed. Study. Keep moving forward. You'll succeed.
Thank you.
Thank you as well.
All the best to you.
Goodbye. Helen, go ahead and decide who's next on the list.
Hello, Dr. Torsunov. I'll try to convey my thoughts. 17 years ago, I left my husband, took my child, and left in the night without explaining my reasons. But life has already returned the favor, hit me with its boomerang, for which I am very grateful. I've finally been able to understand what I did. Now, I'm facing a question about my son. Recently, he's become very withdrawn, distant, and lonely. He's struggling to form friendships. He has few recreational activities and is completely immersed in his studies. He's in medical school. He started getting sick a lot and has even become somewhat depressed. In our last conversation, he said something that struck me deeply, that he's lost faith in God. Though this boy is much smarter than his mother, my question is, how can I help him right now? And can I even help my son at this point? I hope my question makes sense.
I understand everything. You don't need to talk for so long. I understand right away. If you spend half the lecture recounting your life story, it won't make things clearer. Often you repeat the same point 3 times. I immediately understood what's happening. Your son has immersed himself deeply in his studies, but it's exhausting him because he is hyper-responsible. He feels everything must be done perfectly. This hyper-responsibility has led to burnout. He lacks the experience of living in balance. He's overly immersed in his studies and is tired. Excessive materialistic knowledge has also led him to atheism. He has completely devalued the spiritual side of life. On top of that, he has no connection with nature, no social interactions, and no relationship with God. As a result, he's drained. He doesn't serve people, he doesn't serve God, and he's not connecting with nature. It's like his battery is running out. Right now it's almost depleted. And he's convinced that this is exactly how he should live because he's a man. So what can you do? Your best option is to show him how to live correctly. Spend more time in nature, pray, and set an example. By living this way, being joyful and full of life, you will influence him. Don't try to convince him of anything right now. His worldview will gradually shift, be like the sun, and the shadows will disappear. As for childhood, youth, and maturity, remember that in youth, people's physical desires often overpower their spiritual inclinations. Their drive for personal development becomes stronger than their connection to God. This is true for all people. That's why children feel closer to God, as do the elderly. But in youth and maturity, especially for men, this connection weakens. So it's normal that he's going through this phase. Right now, he's a little distant from God because he's overly focused on his activities. But this will pass. His innate sensitivity to God will return as he grows older.
Thank you.
But you have some issues. Your problem is that you are overly attached to your son. You are living not for God but for your son, and you've idealized him in your heart. This leads to loneliness because living with such an attitude is unbearable. You need to learn to think more about God, serve God and others, and think less about your son. When you do this, it will also make things easier for your son. Right now you're overwhelming him. He fears you and is already avoiding contact. You're not really communicating anymore, and soon he might completely distance himself and live apart from you.
He's been living separately for 3 years.
That's the result. You are overwhelming him with your desire to cling to him emotionally. So focus more on God and on others. Simply give and serve. If you're attached to your son, serve him through your love for God and your noble thoughts about people. Give him strength. But if you continue obsessing over him, you'll drive yourself crazy and push him away even further.
Thank you. Next is Miami, followed by Toronto. Please be ready.
Thanks to modern technology, not only bad things happen, but good things too. I don't know when I'll be able to go to America, but America has come to my computer.
Good evening. I have a question about how to serve others. Earlier you spoke about women living in comfort, feeling cozy. That's me. I'm comfortable, and it feels good. I'm alone, but I realized that I don't feel complete. I understand that this is wrong, and I need to get out of this comfort zone. So, I decided to step out. I found a woman who lives nearby, an elderly lady, and thought, I'll help her. Within 2 days, this woman already had a list of things she needed me to do. A list. A whole list. I started to feel overwhelmed. I work full-time, and finding time for myself is already challenging. I got confused, and then I started to feel aggression. I didn't want to help her anymore. Her list just kept growing. How do I balance this? How can I help people without neglecting myself? Or is there no way? Do I have to give myself up entirely to others? You said you spend 2 to 3 hours a day with yourself. If I spend 2 to 3 hours a day only on myself, that's all the free time I have outside of work and commuting. If I do that, then I have no time left to help others.
Well done. Americans are one of the most practical nations. They're great at organizing their lives and understanding priorities. I really liked your question. Look, there are different ways to serve others. For instance, you decide suddenly to help an elderly woman, and she immediately starts taking advantage of you. Here's a gullible one. Let's see how much I can get out of her. That's not quite the right approach. Your capacity to help depends on your strength as a person. For example, if you're strong, you can say, "Ma'am, I can help you for this amount of time each day," and that's it. Even if she starts complaining or causing a scene, you can say, "Don't worry, I'm sure someone else will help you more, but this is what I can do daily and that's it." Then you simply stick to it. If she doesn't want you to help her on your terms, then find someone else to help. This is a good path, but it requires a balance of kindness and firmness. You see, kindness alone rarely leads to good results. In personal life too, firmness must always go hand in hand with kindness. You need to be both firm and kind with the elderly lady. That's how you can establish a good relationship with her. But I think you may have taken the wrong approach. You skipped a step. You started climbing upward with steps that aren't comfortable for you. You took too big a leap, and it drained you. A better step for you would be to start serving at work. Serve with your smiles, kind words, and thoughtful gestures, like bringing candies or baked goods to share with everyone. Care for others without expecting anything in return. And observe how much you can handle. If you feel tired, take a break. No one is forcing you. Just be kind, and it's not necessary to care for everyone. Focus your care on good people only. Helping difficult people is something you're not ready for yet. It takes more strength than you currently have. There are people who can handle being mistreated and still care for others. That shows they're incredibly strong. But you're just starting this journey, and you've already burned yourself out a little. Right now, you're pushing yourself too hard on this path. For now, focus on finding the best people at work and actively, joyfully caring for them. This will also help lead you toward marriage because it will allow you to open up and shine. Regarding the example with the elderly lady, that's a story about my wife. It was a bit different though. The elderly lady she cared for was extremely humble. She didn't ask for anything at all. She couldn't even walk. She was poor, modest, and never demanded anything. My wife found her and began to take care of her. The lady was deeply grateful and blessed my wife to find a good husband. 2 weeks later, she met her future husband. She cared for this elderly woman for several years and also looked after her husband. As both of them were bedridden, she took care of them both consistently. After the husband passed away, the elderly woman gave my wife a powerful blessing, saying, "I bless you," and soon after, everything she said came true. But this was a very different situation. The elderly woman my wife cared for wasn't like the lady you encountered. Your elderly lady is very clever because she's American. She immediately understood the situation and started taking full advantage for her personal gain. That's fine too, but you're not strong enough to handle it right now. You need to be stricter with the old lady. Or find another way. I suggest you an easier way of caring that doesn't require much investment. This is a way of caring for people you work with. Just smile at them more. Try to. It takes strength and courage. Let's say I come to the check-in counter and there's a girl there. Your passport. So businesslike. I see she hasn't slept all night, tired and a bit irritated, saying, "I think you have overweight luggage." "Well," she started saying something like that. "Do you have water in your bags or not?" I tell her, "You must be tired, probably haven't slept all night." She suddenly looked at me. "Yes," she says, "I'm tired." I say, "Rest more, I wish you happiness." As I started to leave, she broke into a smile, and then, when the next person approached, I looked at her. She was smiling and looked wonderful. She started behaving kindly. This care is just 2 or 3 words, but it requires effort. I overcame myself. I wanted to tell her something rude, but I overcame myself and said, "You haven't slept," and so on. And suddenly, this wave started. I activated this energy of kindness in her, and she started giving it back to everyone, and my heart felt good from this action. You don't have to get strongly involved with just anyone. They should be worthy of it, you understand? You need an old lady who will properly appreciate your involvement. But if this person can't properly appreciate it, she immediately starts demanding too much, then maybe you shouldn't get involved with her because you won't have enough strength to make this person kind, so that exchange would start, so that she would become grateful. She will tell you, "You didn't do this, you didn't do that. What kind of care is this anyway?" She might perceive this as some kind of charity action, that you didn't do it out of your own desire, but that you're doing this because it's required at work. Or maybe you have some kind of work contract that requires taking care of old ladies. She doesn't know the details and therefore acts businesslike with you. Selflessness is very rarely found in this world. Therefore, either find someone you can care for closely and who will be very grateful, or simply care for people not so closely, and then it will be easier for you. The level of involvement you've chosen is too intense for you right now, and you might burn out, fall into depression, and so on. The idea is good, you've become warmer. You've become closer to family life thanks to this action, but you need to have experience in all this. That means that you need to know your strength, your capabilities, not rush with it, develop it. Time will come, a year or two will pass, and you will break this old lady. You'll come to her, start caring, she'll put out a list, and you'll say, "Ma'am, you know, I'm actually doing everything selflessly. This isn't some kind of charity action. I can only do this much for you, otherwise I'll destroy all my free time." She'll say, "Then you're not selfless at all, get out." You come to her the next day saying, "Look, I could do this today." And she'll say, "Sorry, I yelled at you yesterday." And then normal relationships will begin, if you can endure all this and cope with it. Exchange is needed, gratitude is needed. If she's ungrateful all the time, you get depleted, you lose your strength. And this will torture you even more. Exchange is needed. So I managed to break through to this woman at the counter. I broke through with my strength. She started smiling. But if I hadn't said it strongly enough, she wouldn't have come out of her angry state. As a result, I would have been disappointed instead, because I opened my heart and she spat into it. And as a result, I would have felt even worse, you see. But I could do it. I had such strong confidence. I told her confidently that she was tired, that she needed to rest more. I put in a lot of kindness, and as a result, suddenly she relaxed. But I feel you won't have enough strength for the old lady, therefore you shouldn't get involved with her.
I came to the conclusion that I wasn't helping before, so why start now? I was so comfortable and good, and then I started and tortured myself like this.
This is inexperience. As they say, the first pancake is always lumpy. You started making pancakes and it didn't work at first. This doesn't mean you should stop making pancakes altogether. You need to keep trying, and then you'll make good pancakes.
Thank you very much. I understand everything now. Thank you.
That's all. Thank you. Be happy. Let's continue. Toronto, right?
Yes, Canada, Toronto. After that, Ivanovo, please get ready.
See how great. Toronto, then Ivanovo. I like this kind of life.
Hello, Dr. Torsunov. Very happy to see you, even if just online. My name is Natalia, and this is not even a question. My heart feels longing for my soulmate. I physically feel this. I've prepared myself already. I'm sure I'm prepared. I've been listening to your lectures for a long time. I've been doing practices, meditations, concentrations, and in general, these soulmates started appearing. One was online. He's still pursuing me. He loves me, I feel it. The second was an Arab prince who cried, saying, "Yes, I'm your soulmate." I'm so open to them and understand that they're not strangers in my fate. But they suffocate from my outpouring of unconditional love when I don't need anything from them. In general, they disappear. One man that I met online remained, and the prince, but they cry, you see. I don't know what the problem is. Maybe I should give it in doses or hide it, even if I feel they're not strangers in my life. Not pour it all on them at once. Yes, I recognized you. We're connected and I'm yours forever. What should I do? How to live on?
Canadians are also very reasonable people. See, she answers her own questions. That means she asks a question and gives the answer. I agree, it should be in doses. A woman should always be mysterious. She shouldn't immediately pour out all her love. It should be in portions and keep the person more on the hook, pull them in so that they are attracted, they want more, but you don't give it all. Mystery is needed, you see, that's one thing. And secondly, it's also very important to know. There's a question of attraction, by the way. I haven't covered it. We'll probably talk about it next time. This is a very important question because a man should be attracted to a woman, not a woman to a man. Look, it's unfavorable when a woman falls in love with a man and he doesn't pay much attention to her. That's it, it's a stalemate. It means nothing will come of it. If you see that you like someone, don't show it. You need to make the magnetism come from him and you need to build it up until he wants to marry you. Often men on the internet are just satisfying their desire to communicate with women. They don't want anything more from it at all. You shouldn't show strong infatuation, but show care to the person, attention, take care, and behave tenderly towards him. But at the same time, give him the opportunity to show feelings, to intensify his feelings. And first, a man has 3 stages. The first stage is when he falls in love and doesn't behave very actively. At this stage, you shouldn't show yourself too much. There should be a significant distance. At the second stage, he activates, he starts pouring out feelings, sending flowers, likes on the internet, and so on. At this stage, you need to be a little gentler, more active, and more affectionate. But still be more like hope, rather than revealing yourself very actively. At the third stage, seriousness awakens in a man. He starts pursuing, wants to come, meet, and even in this case, a woman should keep her distance and always distance. The more he opens his feelings, the more gratitude, the more he opens up, the more gratitude and reciprocity, but he should always have more feelings than you do. It's a whole art to behave in such a way that a man would propose marriage. Because if you have more feelings, he cools down. If you jump into bed with him, he won't be interested anymore at all. This is already a stalemate situation, it's proven. You need to lead and lead him along. When he's already burning, he's responsible, he wants to get married, then you can be closer. His heart needs to be kindled.
The thing is that I actually meet with them. We communicate online for several days. Then not me, but they initiate meetings. They pursue meetings with bouquets. They cry when I come. When they see me, they are deeply moved. They cry saying, "Finally you've come. You are all airy and ephemeral." And then I say, "Yes, I feel you too." And they disappear.
They disappear because you give them your body and that's it. Goodbye. The man got what he wanted.
What about the soul? What about the soul? I'm interested.
Interest for the soul comes later. If you've given your body, then they're not interested in your soul. Understand that infatuation between a man and a woman is an egoistic thing. We use the soul's energy of love for our material desires. There is no pure love between a man and a woman. That's why there are rules for relationships. You need to keep your distance from a man, not let yourself get too close to him, and understand that there is no such thing as pure love between a man and a woman. There are always material desires, sexual desires. You need to restrain them until the man shows not emotions but responsibility. I've told you about the 3 stages. First stage, I blush, I turn pale, I want to speak. That means he blushes, turns pale at first in the first stage. He's afraid to say anything. The second stage is when he starts showering compliments, tears flowing. I can't live without you. You're my first and last. I finally found you. These are all just shows. This is the second stage. This is the stage where you fall for it, the second one. And the third stage is when he calms down and says, "I'm taking you as my wife." You should not even believe in this because it can also be just a show. Only when he actually marries you, after the official registration, then you can open up to him. Since he has passed these 3 stages, he won't leave you after that because he has truly appreciated you. But in the second stage, he cannot truly appreciate you, and especially not in the first stage. That's why the scriptures don't tell how a woman can get married. They talk about how she should keep pulling the fish until the very end. The fish is big, especially if you keep pulling. Even when it's already near the shore, it still doesn't know what will happen next, what awaits it. Therefore, at this moment, you need to have a net. The net is the man's word. The man says, "I'm taking you as my wife." That's when you catch him by his word and say, you promised, and that's it. And then he marries you if he's a real man, and if he's not a real man, then good riddance.
Then a ring remains as a memory, right? He already gave the ring, but then changed his mind, saying it wasn't paradise. Well, at least the ring remains as a memory.
I don't know what to tell you.
I understood that, as you correctly said, there is no pure love between a man and a woman. Mystery is needed.
A riddle, a woman is always a riddle.
Yes, I thank you. You've inspired me for new achievements.
I'm the best, but you won't understand it right away. One snowflake is not yet snow, not yet snow. One raindrop is not yet rain. Who's next? Go ahead, ask.
Hello, Dr. Torsunov. Thank you for your work. I bow very low to you. I'm trembling so much. I have 2 problems in life. I feel that I really love women. I love doing good deeds. I've lived with women all my life. I don't have any men in my life at all.
That's it. There's an answer.
And the second question. I have a son. I can't get him up from his chair. He's so absorbed in his computer activities. He's overweight 120 kilograms. Just sits all the time. He's already 22 years old.
It's the same problem in both cases.
Please give me some advice. I don't know anymore. I pray, try to wake up early. But I don't always succeed. But I pray every day, try to help.
A person has 2 halves. There's a feminine half and a masculine half. You've developed your feminine half very much, very strongly. But a woman should also have a masculine half. How does it manifest? In the form of strictness, inaccessibility, detachment. When a woman is all strict, inaccessible, detached, that's what men like. He starts to be drawn to it. A woman needs not only the feminine nature, you've overdone it. Let's say a soup lacks some spice, and you keep adding and adding this spice. Now there's only one spice in this soup, nothing else is there. Of course, nobody will like that. Same with you. You communicate a lot with women, love all women, but as a result, you've burned out your masculine principle. You've burned out your masculine principle, and what happened to your son? He's let himself go because when a man is near such a woman who has no masculine principle, no strictness, no detachment, such a man becomes so relaxed, turns into such a couch potato next to this woman that it's unbearable. That's exactly why men don't come around, because there's too much affection, warmth, love. This is the same as the previous example from Toronto. Too much affection, warmth, love, and no detachment, no strictness. This is how the masculine, not feminine principle manifests in a woman. Remember, a woman should also have a piece of masculine principle in order to keep a man at a distance and burn his desire for relationships. But if a woman immediately goes la 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 tra la la, then he immediately loses interest. That's what you are. You lack the masculine principle, but you aren't meant to be lonely in life. You need to create balance, and you'll get married right away. You've accumulated so much energy of love, so much good karma. You just need a little detachment from men. Look at the girl with a braid sitting in the back. She has it. She's somewhat independent from men. You need to become like that, a bit independent like that, and then marriage will come.
Detach from whom? There's no one at all. He's not even visible or heard in my life.
Detach from the imaginary object. Understand that one needs to set oneself up correctly first. You need to make the right settings first, and then he will appear, because a person is attracted even from a great distance if the settings are right. If your settings are wrong, no one is attracted. The connection is first established on the subtle level, and only then on the physical level.
And what advice would you give about my son? Maybe I should detach from him too.
Yes, you need to detach from him too and be stricter with him. Your feminine nature needs to start respecting itself, being dignified. And then everyone around will start respecting you too. To sell a beautiful rose, you need to wrap it very well, make everything so that it looks great. And don't sell it right away. Say, sorry, you're not worthy at all. This flower won first place in the flower competition. Even if you want to pay good money, I'll decide whether I'll give you this rose or not. It's precious to me as a memory. You need to raise the value, and then there appears a strong desire to have this rose.
Thank you very much. I bow low to you. Thank you so much.
To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.